The modern fear of looking feminine is not a fashion choice, it is a strategic, economic defense mechanism. In today's competitive, high-stakes career environment, femininity is subconsciously perceived as an economic liability that signals weakness, emotionality, and lack of seriousness. The modern woman operates on the assumption that to succeed in a male-dominated corporate structure, she must mimic masculine traits. Femininity, defined here as softness, gentleness, and an emphasis on physical beauty, is seen as distracting. It invites unwanted attention, reduces professional focus, and suggests that the woman is prioritizing her reproductive value over her economic value. In the mind of the ambitious woman, appearing hyperfeminine creates a target for professional dismissal or sexual harassment, diverting attention from her competence. This has created a massive social paradox. Women have been told they can be anything, but they are internally choosing to sacrifice their visible feminine traits to achieve the highest economic success. They are attempting to desexualize themselves in the workplace to avoid being judged as purely reproductive beings. They believe the only way to earn respect and authority is to adopt a visual presentation of androgyny or competence, clothing, posture, and communication that minimizes soft, traditionally feminine cues. This fear is the rational, calculated response to a workplace that rewards aggressive, focused, and emotionally neutral behavior. Therefore, the rejection of soft femininity is an act of self-preservation, ensuring they are taken seriously in the high-stakes world of money and power. The second deeper reason for the rejection of visible femininity is the intense fear of vulnerability and subordination. In the modern narrative, femininity has become synonymous with passivity and powerlessness. To look and act traditionally feminine is to risk being placed in a position of dependence, where one must rely on a man's protection and provision. The modern woman has been taught that dependence is a trap. She fears the loss of control that comes with trusting a man, especially given the high rates of divorce and infidelity. Consequently, she overcompensates by adopting a hyper-independent frame. This hyper-independence requires her to reject all visual signals that she might need protection or care. Feminine clothing, soft voice tones, and passive gestures are discarded because they are signals of the very vulnerability she is desperately trying to escape. This is a defensive reaction against being perceived as someone who can be easily controlled or dismissed. By hardening her exterior, she attempts to create an impenetrable social wall. She doesn't want to be judged on her beauty. She wants to be judged on her ability to withstand pressure and compete fiercely. This fear of subordination is also linked to the fear of being seen as less than by other women. In many social circles, traditional femininity is now judged as a sign of low ambition or a failure to participate in the feminist mandate of independence. This social pressure forces conformity towards a more competitive, masculine presentation. We're analyzing the intense internal conflicts created by modern social mandates. If you want to understand these core psychological forces driving women's behavior and the true cost of hyper-independence, then take a second right now to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Join the Psyche Lens community for more intense, unfiltered truths about gender dynamics. The rejection of femininity is also a strategy within the relationship game, which has become heavily masculinized. Women have learned that in order to secure a high-value man, the man with concentrated resources, they must compete, not attract through passive beauty. If a woman displays traditional softness, she risks attracting men who are looking for a highly compliant traditional partner. If she wants a man who is powerful, ambitious, and already successful, she feels she must present herself as his equal competitor and intellectual peer, not a delicate ornament. She adopts his language, assertiveness, directness, and competence signaling to gain his respect first, believing attraction will follow the respect. The problem is that by masculinizing her presentation and behavior, she often kills the very sexual polarity that sustains deep attraction. She becomes his respected colleague, his intellectual peer, or his high-functioning friend, but not the emotional and physical opposite he desires. She has traded femininity for respect, only to find the relationship lacks the vital tension that sustains passion. The fear of femininity here is the fear of being seen as purely ornamental and therefore easily replaced. By demonstrating she is a resource generator and a formidable competitor, she attempts to increase her market value beyond mere looks. She is trying to appeal to the male mind that values utility, not just beauty. This strategy backfires when it removes the emotional contrast needed for long-term desire. The final reason is the psychological cost of maintaining the masculine shield. This self-imposed rejection of femininity creates massive internal tension and exhaustion. The woman who is afraid of looking feminine is often afraid of revealing her own authentic needs, the need for care, emotional security, and occasional dependence. She operates in a constant state of high performance, where she can never let her guard down. To express a feeling of helplessness or confusion would be to signal the weakness she has worked so hard to hide, risking her professional and social standing. This forces her to suppress her natural feminine energy, which can be draining and lead to anxiety and chronic dissatisfaction. The paradox is that the very strength she seeks, authority, respect, and economic power, comes at the cost of her emotional authenticity. She gains the external power she desires but loses her internal peace and softness. She becomes competent but emotionally hardened. This psychological armor protects her from male control, but also isolates her from genuine connection and emotional vulnerability. The fear of looking feminine, therefore, is ultimately the fear of external judgment and the fear of vulnerability. Until society stops equating feminine traits with weakness, and until women feel economically safe enough to prioritize emotional connection over competitive competence, the masculine shield will remain the default uniform for success.